Welcome in to Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience with your host, Mike Mercado.
What is going on, friends, and welcome into another Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. On today's show, we have a very special guest. He is one of the main events in Bellator 184. He is the former two-time Bellator featherweight champ, Chicago's own Pat Curran. Joins the show a little later on. We talk about his hiatus from the sport, recovering from injury, what he's going to do post-fight, his retirement goals. So much to talk about. He was really fun. We only got a few minutes with him, but I think you guys will really enjoy it. Stick around for that. We have Chicago Cubs baseball game 1 against the Washington Nationals. The Chicago Blackhawks beat up on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we are only a few days away from the number 2 overall pick for the Chicago Bears, the possible franchise quarterback Mitch Trubisky against the Minnesota Vikings. We got a lot to get to today, guys. You can follow us everywhere in the universe. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Do us a huge favor. Go to iTunes. Rate, review, like, and share us, guys. iTunes.com/Mercado Airwaves. We're also on YouTube. YouTube.com/MikeMercado2333. And Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience is brought to you by our producers at Patreon.com. If you would like to see how you can become a producer of the show, get our interviews ad-free and before anybody else, check us out. Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We'll have a tier for you. We have a lot to get to today, guys. Stay tuned.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
So it is finally time the Chicago Cubs and the Washington Nationals finally meet up in the National League Divisional Series Game 1 tonight, Friday, October 6th at 6:15 p.m. Central Time. It seems like we've been talking about this series matchup since June. A lot of things have happened, and we saw two teams hit two different versions of journeys to this point. Washington really put this division. They had it in hand really early on into September. Really was never in doubt throughout the season. The Cubs late into September, and the mid-September finally took control of the division. At some point, it was an inevitability. It felt like that the Cubs were going to win the division. But all that being said, we are finally here, and the rosters have finally been announced by the Chicago Cubs. I'll read them down for you if you haven't seen it yet. We have 14 positional players and 11 pitchers sending out by the Chicago Cubs. So they're going heavy on the positional side for this series against Washington. Let's just go with we'll go with the pitchers first. We have Carl Edwards, Kyle Hendricks, Brian Dunsing, John Lester, Justin Wilson, Mike Montgomery, John Lackey, Pedro Strop, Jake Arrieta, Jose Quintana, and Wade Davis. Very interesting that you see missing from that pitching staff is Justin Grimm, Koji Uehara, as well as Carlos Rondon. So very interesting that ended up going that way. And on the positional side, Tommy La Stella, Albert Almora, Ian Happ, Javier Baez, Kyle Schwarber, Alex Avila, Chris Bryant, Ben Zobrist, Jason Hayward, Leonis Martin. Very interesting that the best defensive position, pinch hitter, pinch runner made the roster. Addison Russell, John Jay, Wilson Contreras, and Anthony Rizzo. Rene Rivera not on the team. It's very interesting that they went heavy on that side of the ball. So it brings down the Game 1 matchup of Steven Strasburg versus Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks going number 1. It looks like John Lester will go number 2. Jose Quintana will go Game 3 at Wrigley. And Jake Arrieta presumably Game 4 at Wrigley as well. For the Washington Nationals, as far as I can tell, it looks like Steven Strasburg is going Game 1, Gio Gonzalez Game 2, and Max Scherzer going Game 3. Again, he had the hamstring injury going at the end of the regular season. So a lot of it's very interesting that you look at this matchup. If you listen to the last podcast that we had with Paul Shivari about all things baseball, it was very... At this point, I think the teams are very evenly matched when it comes to the talent on the squad. I think the Cubs got healthy at the right amount of time. You want to see whether or not Jake Arrieta can get back and go on a little bit of a run. He was tearing it up before he hurt his hamstring, was trying to find his form, trying to get that contract. This is something that we've lost track of throughout the season. Is Jake Arrieta is still fighting for a contract at the end of the season to play somewhere else. So you would presume, I would presume at the very least, that he's going to try to come back and pitch as well as he has, put it all out there, and just try to bank come this December and January to sign a contract. Kyle Hendricks, the big narrative going in for him is whether or not Joe Madden is going to pull him early. You're already seeing it in the playoff game, just like what the Yankees did to the Twins in the wild card game. Bullpens are at a premium, and if you have the talent, they're going to shut you down. It looks like in the National League, Theo Epstein said it in an interview he had on Chicago's WSCR 670 The Score station here locally, and he even mentioned that he believes that the National League is going to be very starting pitching heavy when it comes to relying on your pitchers, unlike last year. Will Joe Madden get sucked into that type of game plan like he did with Terry Francona in the World Series? I don't know. Do they have the same type of bullpen to shut it down like they did last year? Wade Davis stumbled a little bit heading into the end of the season after being one of the most dominant pitchers of 2017. So both teams are going in there with a little shakiness. Washington has struggled over the last few years going into the playoffs. It's almost the same scenario. They're going in. They haven't had a real tough divisional matchup when it came to their own division with the Mets and Miami and Atlanta. You had the Mets fall off really early in the season with injury. Atlanta's still rebuilding. Miami can never quite get it over there, even with their amazing season with Stanton. So the fact remains is Washington, like most years coming into the playoffs, have not had the most stress, the most tested team going into October. And then with that type of layup going into a divisional series where they're the favorite, along with being the favorite, they're the ones with the pressure, theoretically, the pressure of having to win. Will they stumble and fall? Will Dusty Baker's questionable playoff acumens that he's done, playoff moves that he's done, will they bite Washington in the behind? Then for the other side are the Cubs, do they have enough in the gas tank to go on another run? Will the pitching be able to hold up at the back end of the rotation in this series? Will the bullpen be able to hold up? There's still a lot of questions in this series. Now, I still believe the Cubs are going to win this in 5 games. This is a 5-game series. I don't think this is a blowout. I don't think you're going to see this when it came to, I think Cleveland is going to steamroll through the Yankees. I think whatever's going to happen between Houston and Boston, what a crazy game by Altuve, and the fact that Chris Sale got rocked in that game just goes to show that playoffs are a different monster, especially when you're playing in a team and in a division like what he's dealing with in the East Coast and played for the Boston Red Sox compared to what he had to do with in the South Side of Chicago. So I think every series is going to be interesting. The Arizona Diamondbacks look like a buzzsaw. Again, if you listen to the last show, they're my dark horse to win the World Series, even though I'm starting to creep a little bit more on the side of the Cubs. I think they have like a 10% chance of winning the World Series, so they have just as good a chance as anybody to win this thing. But objectively speaking, the Diamondbacks look amazing. JD Martinez and Paul Goldschmidt, and they have the team to do it, and they have the pitching rotation to do it. Zach Greinke, an absolute monster. So we'll see whether or not they'll be able to put it all together and beat what was the best team in the National League in the LA Dodgers. You talk about pressure. Talk about pressure that Washington's dealing with. Imagine what's going on the side of the Dodgers. Best closer in the game. Best pitcher in the game. Some of the best young talent in the game. They were in the National League Championship Series last year. Can they overcome? And then that's why I always go back to, this is the first time we're ever going into a playoffs where the pressure isn't on a Chicago Cubs team. It's all icing on the cake. It's just right there. It's icing on top. It's frosting on top. However that saying goes. The Cubs are going in there with house money. And that doesn't mean they're going to win. Baseball is weird. Things can happen and get swept out. But just as a fan speaking, like now turning off the objectives, as a fan speaking, I don't see why they can't win it. But if you're asking me to put some money on this, I think Arizona looks Really, really, really good. I really do. But there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. John Lackey in the bullpen, is he going to get a lot of run? There's 3 lefties in that Cubs bullpen as well, so they're going lefty heavy. This is going to be a phenomenal, intriguing series. I think this is going to go all 5. Daniel Murphy, for God's sake, is playing for Washington, which means there's going to be some offense when it comes to this Washington lineup against this Cubs pitching rotation, because it doesn't matter who's pitching for the Cubs. Daniel Murphy gets hits done, unless it's against Justin Wilson, who Justin Wilson has his number. So there's a lot of intriguing matchups. Dusty versus Madden. I'm really looking forward to this series. Game 1 tonight. It is going to be one hell of a playoff run. This is the fun time, guys. This is why the marathon. This is the payoff right here. So we'll see. We'll see is this the first year the Indians win the World Series finally after 69 years, I think, at this point. Are the Cubs going to win back-to-back World Series? Are the Dodgers going to break through? Is Clayton Kershaw going to cement himself in this generation with the World Series? What about Bryce Harper? Is it his turn? Houston, the farm system, building up, having possibly the MVP, getting Justin Verlander at the end of the season. Can they break through? So many phenomenal stories, not even including the Red Sox with Chris Sale, Aaron Judge with the Yankees. This is going to be fun, guys. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think. What are your predictions? Let us know on the comment section below on Twitter. Comment, share, review, like us on iTunes, itunes.com/Mercado Airwaves. Facebook, like us, be part of the conversation on Facebook.com/Mercado Airwaves. Give us a like right there. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you guys think at mmercado2333.
Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
It is finally time. The Chicago Bears are playing the rookie Mitch Trubisky, their second overall pick in the first round this past NFL draft. And it's against the Minnesota Vikings. Monday Night Football doesn't get any bigger for the kid. And it's interesting to me, some of the counter arguments that I get, whether or not the Bears should have played him to begin with, whether they should have played him earlier through the Mike Lennon era of Chicago Bears football. But at least this is me trying to work it out in my head. The Minnesota Vikings have a really good defense. It's going to be a tough game for the Bears, regardless, though. They're not a good team. So there is no good matchup. There is no matchup that you look at the schedule and you're like, this is when the kid could come in. This is when he can be successful. This is when the team could win. It's not how it works, first of all, in the NFL, because the margin is too thin to begin with. But on top of that, you're not a good team. Good teams don't get to make those decisions. The reason why you have a number 2 overall draft pick starting at quarterback on Monday Night Football, week 5 of the NFL season, is because you're not a good team. The reason why your record is the way it is because you're not a good team. The reason why you didn't beat the Atlanta Falcons in week 1 is because you're not a good team. Why do you get blown out by the Green Bay Packers? Because they have a quarterback. Then it doesn't matter whether he's losing receivers left and right, whether his offensive line goes down left and right. He makes the team better. Mike Lennon didn't do that. So let's say Trubisky is a good NFL quarterback. Top 15 quarterback in the league. Top half, you know? Does he make this team better right now? Well, just like with the White Sox and the Cubs and the Bulls and any team in sports, how many of the guys on this roster right now, if and when the Bears make a playoff appearance, will be on it? 3. Guaranteed 1 in Trubisky, if he's anything worth the second round pick that Ryan Pace put his career on, or at least his job with the Bears on. Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen, is Kyle Long part of your future? Is there any receiver that can even make a practice squad on a playoff team? So then let's get into when's the best time to play them. It all goes back to they're not a good team. So it doesn't matter whether it was against Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Minnesota, Atlanta. Pick your poison. They're all better teams in the NFL. They are the better teams in the NFL. But there's not a big drop-off Because guess what? You are the equivalent of the Indianapolis Colts or the San Francisco 49ers or the Cleveland Browns, who might be better than you. You don't get to choose when something's convenient for you. You make the best of what you got, and guess what? You made yourself a really bad bed. And now they got to lay on it, and they got to put their franchise on a rookie quarterback who's going to be on his 13th or 14th starting game in the collegiate and pro level. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. He has the signs of a good quarterback. He has the makeup of a good quarterback when it comes to on the field, from what we've seen on film, from what we've seen on preseason. He changes the way the offense runs. He does. He's that type of talent. But this illusion that there was a good time to play him is crazy. And that's all it is. It's an illusion. You could have played him anytime. If it were up to the Bears, best case scenario, they would have finished about 6-10, 7-9, and Mike Glennon wouldn't have been horrible. Unfortunately for them, Mike Glennon might be the worst quarterback in the NFL. Backups included. So, there's no room for any of this. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. That doesn't happen for the Bears. So, I don't begrudge people for wanting to play Mitch Trubisky week 1. But at least now we know what this team is. If you're the front office and the coaching staff, you know what you can and can't do, which is not a lot. And now you have to devise a game plan that helps a rookie quarterback playing no less than 15 games in both college and pros. Do you trust the coaching staff to do that? I mean, I don't. There's some good in that staff, but I mean, I can't trust this team to do anything. So, what are we looking at as a game? I think Jordan Howard's going to get the ball a lot. I think Tariq Cohen's going to get the ball a lot, which kind of hurts me because I have both of them in fantasy football with no flex spot, but you don't want to hear that. The Bears are not going to win a lot of games the rest of this way through. But then again, somebody like Deshaun Watson is showing you what a capable quarterback can do for your team. Kaiser is giving Cleveland a glimpse of hope for the future. Maybe the answer is there is no answer. Because the NFL is crazy, hard-hitting, and hits you right in the face really fast and tells you the truth. As soon as it can, it'll tell you the truth. And we'll find out Monday night whether Mitchell Trubisky, I gotta stop calling him a kid, but whether or not Mitchell Trubisky is the quarterback of the future for this organization that desperately needs one. I want to know your thoughts, guys. Let us know.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.
Thank you for keeping it tuned in to Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and joining us on today's show is the two-time Bellator featherweight champ. He is Chicago's own Pat Curran. You can catch him against John Mancapa at Bellator 184 live on Spike TV, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. We talk about him winning 2 championships in Bellator, what he did during his layoff, recovering from injury, and so much more. Here's our interview with Pat Curran. Enjoy.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Pat, how you doing, brother? Thank you for joining us here in Chicago. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Tell me, man, it's been a crazy journey. We're finally getting back into the cage. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. This is, the fight week. I'm focusing on the weight cut right now, other than being a little drained from, getting my weight down. I'm feeling great, man. Body exactly where it needs to be, and feeling healthy, good mental state, and I'm just ready to, step back in there and go to work.
Is the weight cutting still kind of the hardest part of the training that you just never could get used to?
Yeah, it's never going to get easier. I mean, you could clean up your diet and eat as clean as possible, but you still have to, portion back your rations and cut back on your liquids. So it does get pretty tough towards the end, but you just gotta, just put yourself in a certain mind state and just kind of push through it. And you just know once you make weight, you can rehydrate, refuel, and get that one step closer to, getting it all over with. But I've been doing this a long time, and it does get somewhat easier and easier, but it's not an easy process.
So do you still have fun? I mean, going through all, you've done it all. You've literally done it all. Do you still have fun whenever fight time shows up and it's time to go?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I kind of lost that a little bit, but you know, I made a couple changes in my life, and you know, I really think I'm working a full-time job back in Chicago, and you know, training in the evenings once I get off work. I mean, it's really, you know, making me enjoy this completely on a different level right now. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I'm enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, and you know, I'm just really excited to be back here and fighting again.
Did you learn a lot during your recovery when you say you started working this other job and your life kind of moving forward, not knowing what was going to happen after the latest of injuries? And did you learn something about yourself doing this, having this time off?
Yeah, you know, it just made me look at it from a different point of view. You know, like to me, I feel like I'm coming to an end in my career. I'm you know, almost 30 professional fights into it. I have a pretty long career as a fighter. And I know this is going to last forever, so I'm kind of moving on to the next stage of my life. But at the same time, I'm trying to hold on to being a professional athlete. And, you know, I'm just kind of, you know, learning a new trade, starting a new career. And yeah, it just makes me really appreciate, you know, what I've done and just really enjoy the whole process of it again. And, you know, I kind of fell far away from that, just being stuck in the same routine, training every day, doing the same thing. You know, you kind of just get tired and bored of it, and that's where I was at. But, you know, just changing up my routine, getting the day job, and you know, just, you know, working towards another career has really, you know, sparked another fire and made me really enjoy it again. So very grateful for that.
Do you now get the chance to look back and enjoy all the success? I mean, you're a two-time champ. You were the man. You are the man. You've cemented yourself, and being one of being able to move forward, unlike a lot of people. Are you able to look back and be like, yeah, you know what, I had a good journey on this?
Oh, absolutely, yes. You know, I've accomplished a lot in the sport. You know, I came from pretty much nothing, working my way up through the rankings. I have a lot of titles under my belt. I accomplished a lot. I beat a lot of good opponents and had some very memorable fights. I'm very happy with my career and I'm proud of what I achieved. And you know, just looking back on it now, I definitely can see that. So yeah, definitely it's not a regret. I love what I do. I love what I did, and you know, I want to continue that success and you know, make new memories.
I know you got a crazy day ahead of you. Before we let you go, we want to just give you all the support here from Chicago. We know you've always represented the big shoulders of this city, always giving it your all whenever you're in that cage, whenever you're training. Good luck with the future endeavors, man. It's really cool to see that you've been able to, you know, enjoy the career, dominate, have an awesome, cement yourself in this sport, and then be able to have another chapter. Can you give us a preview of why on Friday you're going to show us why you're one of the baddest dudes to ever put the gloves on?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just want to say thanks for having me on the show, and yeah, you definitely tune in on Friday. I bring the fight every time. I never back down. I'll never give up. You know, I have a heart of a champion, and I'm going to show it on Friday night.
Good luck, brother. Good health. Cubs or Sox fan?
I got to go with the Cubs.
All right, my man. All right, you know what? Just like they did last year and just like you can do on Friday, just going to be a bunch of winning here in Chicago. That's all it is. Like, that's what we can promise you here after this show.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
A huge thank you to the folks in New York, Bellator MMA, and Pat Curran. Good luck to him this Friday, October 6th, against John Mancapa. It is Bellator 184, live on Spike TV, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Should be a hell of a fight, guys. Support him. Watch the fight. Enjoy a good night of MMA while you watch the MLB playoffs.
Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.
So last night, the Chicago Blackhawks absolutely dominated in their season opener against the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins with a 10-1 lead. For all you hockey nuts here, just a quick rundown of the stats in case you were sleeping in the middle of this ass whooping. Hartman with the goal, Patrick Kane with the goal, Saad with a hat trick with his 3 goals, a very nice showing there. Schmaltz with 2 goals, Seabrook with the goal, Panic with the goal, and Sharpie with the goal. This was on Corey Crawford having 28 saves on 29 attempts, only giving one goal away of that powerhouse that is the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Chicago Blackhawks look pretty damn good, guys. Of course, Eddie Olczyk, our thoughts, all sports fans here in Chicago. I really became a Blackhawks fan right around 08, 09 when that team really started to make that turn. Obviously, I'll never forget watching the Western Conference Finals between Detroit and Chicago and listening to Eddie Olczyk and really getting appreciation for getting excited for it. When this time was happening, the Bulls weren't really doing much. The Cubs weren't doing much. The Bears obviously weren't doing much. So this was something that filled that hole in the heart that most sports fans had. And obviously they go on this crazy run. They're starting off the season really nice. It looks like their lines and their shifts look crisp, and it feels special when you were watching a game last night. Mind you, that was one game. There was a lot of hype going into it, obviously, because you're playing against Pittsburgh, the Stanley Cup matchup that people are hoping before both of these windows close for these franchises when it comes to this group of players that they get a chance to meet up, which would be an awesome Stanley Cup final. But it got me thinking, what makes a true fan? Because Chicago is such a great sports city, and I was talking about this on one of the last podcasts that I had, that with the Cubs winning, a lot of Chicago sports fans became more intelligent when it came about the nuances of baseball. And I feel like the same thing happened with hockey. I think hockey's a little bit more of a niche sport than baseball is, but nonetheless, in this city, a niche sport is still millions of people enjoy it. So I wonder what makes a quote-unquote true fan. Is it knowing the lineup and the roster top to bottom? Is it watching every game? Is it going to countless games? Is it buying merchandise? Is it as simple as investing 3 hours of, every 2 days, every 3 days to watch them? I can't tell you what it is. I can tell you that there is no, at least in my opinion, there is nothing called a true fan. There is fans, and there's obvious socialites, I should say, where they're fans when they're out in social events, when they're around people, when it's the cool thing, which is fine. They want to be part of the crowd. They want to be part of the movement. They want to be part of the energy. I appreciate that. I'm never going to hate that. But if you're somebody who just watches, let's say, a Blackhawk game once a week, you're investing time. You're allowing these players and these announcers and the sports to be a part of your life. It's the same I don't begrudge people for not watching 6 baseball games in a week. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of patience that's needed. Football's a little different. I understand football's argument because it's once a week at a specific time. It's fast-paced, sometimes depending if they're just throwing flags and we're doing nothing but replays. But for the most part, and basketball, again, it's people's arguments, the basketball games don't mean anything this late, and it only really means anything the last 2 minutes of a game, and so on and so forth. So there's always a counter argument of what makes a fan, why do people watch it, why don't people watch it, but I think this is another, in such a political world, obviously, if you guys follow me, in such a political world, this is one of those weird things where people use it as a spectrum, as a measurement of intelligence and of dedication, and I don't think it's healthy for us to judge ourselves amongst other fans. Like there's times where I get called out. Like I like to believe myself very very objective. I'm very objective when it comes to speaking sports because it's fact based to me. And it's very much like math. Like, even though I don't like math, this is very much, it's X's and O's. There's some opinion of how things may project. But at the end of the day, when things are said and done and we're watching the only true live reality television. But I get called out many times for not being a quote-unquote true Cub fan. Oh, I'm a bandwagon jumper, whatever the hell that means. Like, it doesn't matter. There's people out there who believe that they're better fans than you, that there's actual criteria. And that's what reminds me, what made me think of all this is at least some segment of Blackhawk fans, maybe it's hockey fans, maybe I'm generalizing, but a big segment, I shouldn't say big segment, but there are some that believe that everybody that's not them was a wagon jump. They were the original ones. They were there when there were only 9,000 people at the United Center. And like, what's the point of that? What's when I was at the rally for the Chicago Cubs after they won the World Series with my brother, my uncle, my family, everybody was there. 5 million people were there, quote unquote. No matter the number, at that moment, I didn't care whether you've been watching them for 10 years, 10 minutes, 10 games, throughout the whole drought. It didn't bother me. Because at that moment, it was bigger than that. It was the one thing sports can do, and it was community. It didn't matter. Everybody was just, for not being political, but it was red, white, and blue because it was the Cubs. It was blue and white. It was everywhere. It was confetti. It was every race, every sex, every political view. It didn't matter. Everybody was there, and that's the one thing sports can do. So why try to alienate yourself and not allow people to come in and enjoy a beautiful sport and a beautiful thing that you believe in, that you believe is this thing that should be on that pedestal like some of these other sports are put on. This is just my belief. And I have, obviously I do a sports show, and I have a lot of people who are in the business, out of the business, that have different views on this. But at the end of the day, they have views on it. And you even saw with the Cam Newton stuff, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you could be a fan on different levels. You could be all types of people and still be a fan in your own way. So I think, why not enjoy a 10-1 win with anybody, whether it's their first game or their millionth game rooting a certain team on for. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know. What makes a true fan? Is that a real thing? Is there really a criteria? Let us know on the comment section below. Tweet us at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And also like, review, share, and rate us on iTunes, itunes.com/Mercado Airwaves.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.
That'll do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience. A huge thank you to Pat Curran for joining us on today's show. You can catch his fight against John McCampa on Bellator 184 live on Spike TV, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, Friday, October 6th. It's going to be one hell of a fight. Support Pat by watching it and sending them support on social media. Thank you guys for joining us. Follow us everywhere in the universe. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Like, rate, review, share us on iTunes, itunes.com/Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience is brought to you by our producers at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. You can check out how you can produce this show and some of our other content, get our interviews ad-free before anybody else, and so much more. Thank you to all of our producers. Thank you to each and every one of you for supporting the show, for listening to us. We appreciate it. Enjoy the games, enjoy the playoffs, and we will see you next time on Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience.
To be a part of the show, follow us on social media. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow us on Twitter.com at mmercado2333. And help the show out by liking, rating, sharing, and commenting on the show on iTunes/Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. Check us out behind the scenes on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thank you for listening to Mercado Airwaves Sports Experience.